Hi, and welcome to the CloneAid. I'm your host, Connor.
And I'm your co-host, Tash.
Welcome. So today we have an exciting episode for you, but I'm going to pass it over to Tash because this one, Tash has done the research on.
I mean, bear with me, as I haven't done the research on an episode in a long time.
So what do you have for me today?
So today we're going to be talking about clones.
Ooh.
You get a clone. You get a clone. That's right, clones. Very controversial. No, it's not that controversial. I feel like people don't talk about clones enough, actually. You can't really ask if you believe in clones, so I'm just going to ask you what you know about clones.
Well, you could ask if I believe there are clones in society right now.
Do you?
I wouldn't be surprised if there was like a top tier, like the 1% people.
Yeah, top 1%.
If they have been cloned.
What
I wouldn't
would
be surprised.
What would you think the clones would be for?
Well, either because they've gotten old, they've gotten ill, or, just because, my knee was a bit twitchy and I wanted a new suit. New meat suit.
New meat suit. Gross. Okay, fair enough. I don't know. I kind of do believe that there are clones among us.
It would explain why there's doppelgangers.
Yeah, but then doppelgangers I found don't actually look exactly the same as the person. They just look very similar. I don't know. I've never seen someone who looks exactly like someone else.
I don't know. What if they got like squished against the tube? So they look a tiny little bit different.
What do you know about clones?
A literal copy of someone or some animal.
Well, you're going to find out too much, I would say, too much. So the term cloning describes a process that can be used to produce genetically identical copies of a biological entity. The copied material, which has the same genetic makeup as the original, is referred to as a clone. Ooh.
So everything would be the same. Like, I've got a birthmark. The clone would have a birthmark.
Weirdly enough, no. That's what I thought at first. I was like, genetically you're the same, but that doesn't always mean that you're going to look identical.
Wait, so it might not be identical?
No, it might not look exactly. It's not going to look exactly the same as you.
Kind of like the twins that are not twins who look nothing alike.
No, because they are biologically different. I know, it's weird. But think Dylan and Cole Sprouse. They're identical twins, right? But they look identical, but they don't look the same. You can kind of tell which one's which. Do you know what I mean? But they are technically clones. Technically, twins. Identical twins are technically clones, yes. That's know, weird. It's weird. This is what I mean. It's really weird. So researchers have cloned a wide range of biological materials, including genes, cells, tissues, and even entire organisms such as sheep. You mentioned sheep. Shout outs.
What was the sheep's name? Do you have it? Is it
Dolly.
Dolly.
Yeah, Dolly the sheep. Shout outs to education for teaching us about Dolly.
I never got taught that. Is it a British achievement or is it
technically? Yes, I think it was I've got it here somewhere, but I'm pretty sure it's Scotland where it happened. But it was just an achievement in terms of cloning at the time. So it was just like,
Yeah, we never learned that in Spain. Like, I heard about it on the news, but
yeah,
they didn't teach it in school.
So there are 3 different types of artificial cloning. There's gene cloning, reproductive cloning, and therapeutic cloning. So gene cloning produces copies of genes or segments of DNA, and reproductive cloning produces copies of whole, like animals/people. So that is basically, I mean, I might be completely lying, but I think technically identical twins are like reproductive clones because they happen reproductively. And then therapeutic cloning produces embryonic stem cells for experiments aimed at creating tissues to replace injured or diseased tissues.
Oh, is that like when they like grow like an ear on the hand or something like that?
Yeah, essentially.
I find that so weird, just having like an ear grow on my hand. Like,
it's for you though.
It's
not like you're just growing ears for other people.
But like every time I'd look at my hand, I'd be like, am I gonna like start to hear through this at one point? Am I gonna get superpowers? And I'm like, ear man. Put my ear like hand to the door. I could hear perfectly through the door.
No. It's essentially like you have a mole on your body. It's a bit like that, right? Where you don't really like feel it like that. Yeah, I guess. I don't know. I've never had an ear grow on anywhere other than my ears. Yet. So I wouldn't be able to tell you that. Yeah, yet. Just in case, I don't know.
Never say never.
Never say never, but I hope I don't ever need to have that happen. So we're going to take it back a bit, just to go through cloning, what we've achieved. Human achievements. So we're going to talk about animal cloning. In 1979, researchers produced the first genetically identical mice by splitting mice embryos in the test tube and then implanting the resulting embryos into the womb of adult female mice. So this is technically reproductive cloning. Shortly after that, researchers produced the first genetically identical cows and sheep and chickens by transferring the nucleus of a cell taken from an early embryo into an egg that had been emptied of its nucleus. So I think, again, if I'm remembering science correctly, I haven't been in school in years, you can essentially just empty out, you take cells, right? The reason why stem cells are like so crazy and cool is because they're like empty cells, right? So you can make them up into being anything.
Yeah, you can program them to do whatever you want.
Yeah. So that's essentially the like thing that they're using to do it. So they're just kind of taking, it's like taking, putting in, and then it comes out. Science.
You do the thing with the thingy-majig, when you put the thing in that, and then you let it cook, and then boom, science.
Boom. It wasn't until 1996 that researchers succeeded in cloning the first mammal from a mature somatic cell taken from an adult animal. After 276 attempts, Scottish researchers finally produced Dolly, the lamb, from the udder cell of a 6-year-old sheep. This famous lamb brought cloning into the limelight. Her arrival started conversations about the implications of cloning, bringing controversies over human cloning and stem cell research into the public eye.
Wait, this was 1996?
Yeah, this was a long time ago.
But I thought this was like 2010, 2006.
This is why I'm shocked that like more people are not taught about it in school, because I'm like, this was so long ago. And from then, we've had so many more achievements and so much more drama over it.
Yeah, because I know like a family wanted to clone their dog when it died.
Oh,
and then
it's in there.
There's the mammoth that like people found mammoth DNA and they wanted to clone the mammoth.
I saw like a billboard of it telling people like when it was going to be available to come view. And then I was like,
wait, actually alive?
I don't know. That's why I was confused, because I was like, wait a minute. I was like, no, surely not. Surely we're not doing this. I was like, are we here yet? And this was a few years ago as well. It wasn't recently.
Although, do you know what this means?
Mm-hmm.
With this step closer to Jurassic Park,
it
can be a thing.
Every day we get closer and closer to Jurassic Park. It's going to definitely be in our lifetime.
Hell, we've seen so many movies with like robots taking over the world, and yet we're still like out there doing AI and all this and all that. So I wouldn't feel like Jurassic Park as the movie is going to set us back from opening up a theme park that's dinosaur based.
Yeah. Like talking about Dolly and why Dolly was also so monumental, because you can look at it and be like, yeah, but people were already doing like all these other things, blah, blah, blah. It's because the way Dolly was made was from an adult sheep, which was something that had never been done before. Basically, when you're taking things from an adult, there's so many problems that can derive, because you're essentially taking adult cells and putting it into like a baby, a child.
A baby.
And obviously when you're an adult, certain cells don't regenerate the way that they used to. So when you put that into a child, you're essentially giving a child cells that don't regenerate. That's why this was such a big thing, because when you're taking a baby and a baby, it's just like it's a clone of a baby, but then babies the cells are still like fresh, still new, whereas adult cells are not as fresh. So this is why this was so important, because it was like, whoa, okay, so we can do this with adults then. Whoa. That's why it created so many conversations about cloning, because people are like, well, now that means you can basically do the same procedure that you did on this lamb. You could do that to a human and it might actually be successful.
I feel like that's why people are looking into like brain chips and stuff like this, so that they can like download their consciousness back into a new body or something.
Yeah, which I'm not for downloading human consciousness.
No.
It's a wee bit scary.
See, I'm not for cloning.
No?
No, I'm not pro cloning.
To be fair, I'm not pro cloning either. It's too...
It will start a bad precedent.
Yeah, it's too weird. I just feel like it's too human trafficky.
There's this race in Stargate, and basically the way they reproduce is they just clone themselves. So when they don't die, they just upload their consciousness, download it into a new body, and they carry on living. But it got to a point, because it's a copy of a copy of a copy of a copy, that their bodies were dying. because it's like cellular degeneration, where like if you make a copy of a key, and then you make another copy of that key, and another copy of that key, one of the keys just isn't going to work properly because it's a copy of a copy, not the original.
I don't know about your key analogy, but I get what you mean.
No, the key
Is that
analogy.
A thing?
The key thing.
When I worked at a company, I was an office manager, and one of my jobs was to get people keys. And so I would literally just copy. My key was a copy that I got. I got a copy already. And then I would use my key to make copies for other people. And they all worked fine.
A copy of your key is probably the second key. So if they were to copy their key, the third set of key, that would be a fourth key. So the fourth key might not work properly, or the fifth key might not work properly. But it gets to a point where it's a flaw. There's like minute details that are not there.
So 2 years later, this is after Dolly, researchers in Japan cloned 8 calves from a single cow, but only 4 survived. Which is pretty impressive, though, isn't it? Like, from a single cow. That's crazy. Besides cattle and sheep, other mammals that have been cloned from somatic cells include cat, deer, dogs, horses, mule, ox, rabbit, and rats. In addition, a rhesus monkey has been cloned by embryo splitting. Loads and loads of animals have been cloned. Isn't that kind of crazy?
It is. Would you eat cloned animals? Imagine like in the future, there's like a supermarket and it has like original beef, cloned beef. Would you get the cloned beef?
Well, apparently.
Oh my God, is it already a thing?
After consulting with many dependent scientists and experts in cloning, the US Food and Drug Administration, the FDA, decided in January 2008 that the meat and milk from cloned animals such as cattle, pigs, goats are as safe as those from non-cloned animals. So researchers are now free to use cloning methods to make copies of animals with desirable agricultural traits such as high milk production or lean meat. However, before people start being like, am I eating cloned meat? Oh my God. Cloning is very, 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 very expensive. So it's very unlikely that people will use it.
I don't know if I'd trust it though. Like I'd have to give it a while. I don't know. It feels wrong. It feels weird.
I don't know. I kind of get what you mean. Like it does feel a bit weird, but what are you going to do, you know? If we get to a point where there's not many animals left, there's not much, like we probably won't have a choice, you know what I mean?
I'll just be like one of those people that jumps on the trend after it's like, successful and be like, I always believed in it. I always knew it was good.
Yeah, me with like fold phones. Like, yeah, sure.
No, I'm still against fold phones.
Yeah?
I don't know. I need to see one in person. I'm too poor to see one right now.
Literally, I was gonna say, I was like, we don't know anyone who has one. We will not have one.
My sister has one.
There's always time to go to England and just to see a fold phone.
And my sister.
And your sister, yeah. You're like,
I've seen the fold phone.
Where's the
phone?
Bye. Bye. I only came for one reason. Sorry. Oh my God.
So what else you got for me?
We are gonna talk about human cloning. I don't know. Because I didn't think there was going to be much, and to be fair, there isn't. So don't get too excited. Yeah. So despite several highly publicized claims, human cloning still appears to be fiction.
Quotations.
Notice the quotation marks. There is currently no solid scientific evidence that anyone has cloned human embryos. This is when I went down that rabbit hole of like, there has to be something. So in 1998, scientists in South Korea claimed to have successfully cloned a human embryo. But
was it me? I was born in 1998.
In South Korea?
The one flaw.
Oh my God. But said the experiment was interrupted very early when the clone was just a group of 4 cells. Notice the word interrupted. I don't know what that means. Well, I know what the word interrupted means, but like, what do they mean by it was interrupted? As in like, they were stopped? Like, hey, ho.
Either stopped itself or someone stopped it.
Yeah. Like, stop this. What you doing? And then there was a company called CloneAid. So this company, this is in 2002, CloneAid, it was part of a religious group that believed that humans were created by extraterrestrials. It held a news conference to announce the birth of what is claimed to be the first cloned human, a girl named Eve. like the name Eve.
Yeah. Very biblical.
Yeah, very, very biblical. However, despite repeated requests by the research community and the news media, CloneAid never produced any evidence to confirm the existence of this clone or the other 12 human clones it reportedly created.
Yeah, you need the receipts, honey. Like,
Yeah.
you can't just say you
Wow.
clone someone.
See,
Where's the video? I want like a video of like the tube. I want a picture. I want like the little graphs that be like, boop, boop,
boop,
boop,
boop,
boop,
boop,
boop.
boop. The birth video, release it now. No, but the thing is,
We want to see that real birth certificate.
no, not again.
Oh my God.
The thing is,
wait, would you get a birth certificate if you were cloned? You're not birthed.
you are
you're cloned.
birthed. You're birthed.
But you're a clone. You've already been born.
You were still birthed. Because the way it works is they have to still insert it into a womb, and it still has to go through the process of developing in a womb and then being birthed. I don't think we're at the point yet where you can just grow an entire person inside of like an artificial womb.
Yeah, but it's also a paradox because if that's you and you're you can't be birthed twice.
But the thing is, right, this is my argument with clones, is that it's not you. Genetically, it's a clone, but it's not you. The moment you are like separated and it starts developing cells, this is why I mean they can look completely different. Yeah, because then environmental factors also take into place. For example, if I was, I was born in Zimbabwe, right? If I was completely raised in Zimbabwe and then a clone of me was then out there in England, we are going to look completely different. Do you know what I mean? I'm probably going to be darker because I'm living in a hot climate. They're going to be lighter. Their hair's going to look very different to mine as well. So all those like little things as well just start to like affect it.
Well, they did something like that. I haven't seen it, but there was like a documentary where these scientists, I think it was triplets, and then they put all three of them in a different family and then didn't tell each other that each other existed and just monitored them.
That's messed up.
It is messed up, but I don't know how. They eventually found each other.
Yeah.
Scientists be doing the most.
I think I don't know if this is fiction or fact, but I think they did that with twins as well, where one grew up with like a poorer family and one grew up with a wealthier family, and they wanted to see if that would have an effect on them. Like, yeah. But then I think weirdly enough, the one that grew up with the poorer family ended up doing really well for themselves, whereas the one that grew up with the richer family ended up like really struggling mentally and like having like addictions and stuff like that. I don't know if that's 100% or if that was just a dream I had, but So, like I said, I went down a bit of a rabbit hole with CloneAid, the company.
Wait, it was a company? I thought it was a religion.
It's a religion, but it's basically a company.
Ooh, it's a cult.
Yeah, it's a cult. Yeah, I was like trying to think of the word. It seems kind of cult-like.
Do they all wear the same shirts?
I don't know. The website was pretty old. Doing more research, I understand why now. But yeah,
you got to all wear the same shirts.
2002, you need to remember. So their website wasn't exactly the best.
Prime cult time.
So I went on their website. CloneAid is the world's leading provider of reproductive human cloning services. Eve, the first cloned baby, was born December 26, 2002, to our team of highly skilled scientists. Since then, we've been able to help a number of patients who have their own children through our cloning technology. How dystopian is that? I was just reading the website. I'm like, this is so weird. Like,
I found it weird that they were born on December 26th. Like, you trying to be Jesus?
No.
It feels it.
It's Eve. So they said the CloneAid can help you if, again, this is from the website, if you're sterile and have lost hope of having the child of your dream, if you're homosexual and deeply desire a child who could carry your own genes, if you've just lost or are about to lose a beloved family member and would like to see an identical twin of that person begin a new life, if you're HIV positive and want to have a child that would be your genetic twin without infecting either the baby or your partner with the virus, or if you simply just want to be cloned, whatever your reasons may be. I was with them until that last one because I was like, hold up.
If you just want to have a little fun cloning.
Literally, I was like, what? I was like, all your other reasonings, to be fair, yes, they make sense. Do you know what I mean? They make sense. Even though adoption is an option for everyone.
Adoption is an option. Oh my God, that is a great marketing campaign. Adoption is an option.
Adoption is an option, but apparently you have to jump to cloning first, even though I feel like cloning would be more expensive than just adopting a child.
100%. There's so many extra steps into cloning.
Imagine. This is what I mean. Like, I feel like people don't bring that up enough. But I guess people are obsessed with the idea of having a child who they're genetically related to.
But with the cloning, it's just like it ages normally, right?
It depends.
It depends.
It depends. Remember what I was saying about the cells that are taken from an adult?
Yeah.
Well, because they're taken from an adult and they don't regenerate the same as cells that are from a baby, the lifespan of the clone baby is reduced significantly because their cells don't work the same way that they would if they were an actual child. That's the thing. That's what I think. So you would have to figure out a way to basically move past that part.
See, I didn't know if you're going to be like, oh, they sped up like the aging process. So like the kid becomes like 20 in 10 days or something like that, you know? Yeah, wow. Because otherwise, like, let's say it's me and you. Yeah. You're dying. Yeah. I wouldn't clone you because then I'd be looking after a child of you. That feels weird. It
is weird. It's, well,
I can't be like...
It would only be weird if you fell in love with the baby.
How would I describe like introducing my child? Oh, this is my wife daughter.
No, just say this is my child.
It's not my child. It's my wife daughter.
It would technically be my child. So it would depend on if you want to adopt that child.
If it's a clone of you.
It's, yeah.
No, it's weird. It's weird.
Well, I guess it wouldn't be my child. It would technically be my twin that's just younger than me. Hang on. If I was dying and I was like, I've decided to be cloned, but you're going to have to raise me. You wouldn't do that.
If you asked me to, I would. But if it was my choice, no.
What do you think the relationship would be like between you and that child? Would you be like, I'm going to look at this as like, would you look at it as my sibling or would you look at it as your child, as if we had had a child together?
I would look at it, if it was a clone, I would look at it as a version of you.
That's weird.
It's a clone.
That's weird. That's really weird. Would you fall in love with this child? That's weird. Because if you were to see that child as me, I feel like you would also have some kind of resentment towards it if it doesn't turn out to be like me.
That's why I wouldn't have clones.
You're right. It's too complicated. I'm stressed just thinking about this. So back to CloneAid. So there was actually a form that you could fill out if you wanted to, be cloned.
Wait, does the website still exist?
Yeah.
Did you fill it out?
I started to, but then I felt nervous. I don't know why. I just felt like the FBI was going to come get me.
We phoned 118 when I was a kid. And we're like, oh my God, you guys suck. You guys are stupid. And then we hung up. And then the phone rang again and we're like, oh my God, it's 118.
They're coming for you. I have the contact form. Oh, that's what it was. I couldn't actually get access to it anymore. Again, for reasons that will be reviewed later. But
oh my God, did they just kidnap children? Oh my God, they kidnapped children.
I don't know. No, wait. Why am I saying I don't know? I do know. So here's an overview of the process steps. Number 1, first, fill out our contact form. Number 2, one of our representatives will contact you to discuss your situation and goals. Number 3, our medical team will evaluate your case. If your application is approved, we'll make arrangements to obtain cells from the cell donor, the person who is to be cloned. Number 4, over the next several weeks, the donor cells will be optimized for nuclear transfer, the cloning step of the process. Number 5, we then retrieve eggs from either the patient or an egg donor. From either the patient or an egg donor and proceed with the nuclear transfer using the donor cells taken earlier. Number 6, after several days, the clone embryo will be implanted in the patient's womb or that of the surrogate mother. Number 7, the patient or surrogate mother will carry the fetus to term through a normal 9-month pregnancy. I love the normal 9-month pregnancy, just to be clear. Number 8, the baby, a genetic twin or clone of the cell donor, will be delivered and a new human life, that of the desired child, will begin. That's the process.
What feels weird, right, is if you had a baby, it would technically be, it's a clone of both of you together.
But it's not a clone.
But it kind of is. It's like, it's part of your DNA, part of this DNA put together, and then you have a baby.
It's not. No, that's no.
Well, down to like the most basics of elements.
It's not a clone. It's just a product. It's a child. It's a child that you've had.
Yeah, but a child, if you want to like get technical, just like twins or clones, it's technically a clone of two genetic beings put together.
Because you are misusing the word clone.
No.
Clone is genetically identical. So it's never gonna, if you and a person, your DNA combines, it's not a clone. It's never gonna be a clone. The clone part comes from the fact that it comes from one person.
Yeah.
And it's someone's, and it's not just one person and you're taking someone's DNA. It's the fact that it's genetically identical.
With that company, they're copying for you to have a child.
Yeah.
Would you see it as the same as, like, let's say we had a child.
Yeah.
That's a child. And then let's say you decided to clone yourself.
Yeah.
And that's a child. Would you both see them as both children that are like our children, siblings? Or would you see it as one clone and a child?
When you have a child, like naturally, when you have a natural birth of a child between two people, let's say a man and a woman, right? You, unless you do screening for specific like diseases and things like that, and you like choose, which is like a thing now, because of your history with your family and your like basically your whole family and my whole family, we cannot determine what the child is going to look like down to eye color, hair color, anything, what the child looks like. We cannot determine that. We cannot know. We don't even know what type of genetics they're going to inherit from us. All we know is that, sure, it took both of us to make the child, but we don't know what that child is going to have. When it's a genetic clone, genetically cloned from, let's say, you already know everything about this child in terms of genetically.
The point I was trying to get at was if you copied yourself and had a child, and then like we had a child together.
Yeah.
Would you see one of them as a clone, a copy of you, and then the other one as our child? Would you see them both as our child?
I think personally, if that was something that I did, I would see them both as our children. Just simply because the process is still the same. You're still going to have to raise this child and you're still going to have to like, sure, in the back of your head, you will know, because I feel like at one point they will start to look very similar to how you looked at their age or whatever. You will know, obviously, oh yeah, that's, but then because again, things like their personality and everything about them is going to be very different to you. I feel like that separation will start to come in terms of being like, oh, this is me, this is my clone or whatever. You start to just see it as, this is what I mean. I feel like it would be as if you had a twin. It will basically feel more like maybe like a sibling rather than this is my child. But because you've raised them, you will have parental feelings towards them. I don't think that will ever go away just because you know that this is your clone. Yeah,
because you do get people in like families where it's like you see a picture of like their great granddad or something. Yeah. And then like your child will look like your great granddad. I don't know. It just feels weird. I feel like I would see it as a clone and a child just because it's a copy of you. Maybe I would see it as like your sister or something, but I don't know. It would feel weird. It would feel weird.
Yeah, I think it definitely would feel weird. You're raising someone. Do you know what I mean? You will have parental feelings towards them, especially if you're there from start to like when they go into adulthood or whatever. You just will naturally, I think, fall into that place. Some people don't, obviously, but I just feel like if you personally were put into that position, you would just assimilate into parental role. Maybe when they're an adult and then they'll start to look a lot more like you, then you'd be like, oh my God, this is so weird. Like, but some people have kids that look so much like them, like literally the same as them. So
I mean, you get people that have kids that look nothing like them.
Yeah, exactly. Just finishing off on CloneAid because I was like, okay, so what about Eve? I was like, even though they didn't give any evidence, like surely there must be something about her. Do you know what I mean? And from what I found, Eve was hidden from the world from fears that the baby would be taken away by the parents. With all the like publicity that was going on, because everyone was like, well, we want to see Eve, we want to do this, we want to do this. And obviously there was a whole court trial because human cloning at the time, it wasn't illegal, but it was very much like, don't do it. So it was more like, we need to talk about what they're doing and if we should allow this to keep going. So there was a whole trial going on, and then the parents were like, they are going to take this baby away. So they hid the baby from the rest of the world. And because they hid the baby, testing was never done to claim that she was a clone, but they seem to have gotten away with it because they were never charged, because technically there was no testing. So it was never actually like, we don't know if they're telling the truth or not. I think everyone was just kind of like, oh, they're a weird cult that just believes in like humans were created by extraterrestrials. So I feel like they just kind of were like, whatever.
Yeah, I feel like that part maybe takes away a little bit from their science.
Yeah, a little bit credit. But it's also just crazy to me that they never like tested. So it could be true. We would just never know. Plus, it's the whole hush hush of like, we need to hide the baby. That's very sus. Do you know what I mean?
But I do get it. Like, if let's say my child was a clone,
yeah,
I wouldn't want people like poking and prodding.
Yeah.
Like they're like some kind of test subject to be tested on.
Yeah, that's true. Especially if you are someone who couldn't have children and you like went through this and you got a child, you'd be like, well, no, I don't want to. Do you know what I mean? We went through all that to have a child, and now people are saying all these things.
This is exactly what happened to Clark Kent. She was like, I can't have a child. I'm going to let someone take me away just because he's like really strong and really fast and, you know, shoots lasers out of his eyes. Any kid can do that.
I was with you and I'm like, But CloneAid claimed that a third child, a boy, had been born in Japan, and it said clone number 2, a girl, was born to a Dutch lesbian. This was the quote that they put. Human cloning is a safe reproductive choice, and our success rate is similar to those of other assisted reproductive techniques. It's not like I super believe them, but I'm a bit like, this is a bit weird, is that it was like in different countries that they did it. It was in different countries. It's weird. Why? It's just weird. It's just
an
odd.
orphan black situation.
It really is. It's just so odd. Like, if there are any human clones out there, please reach out, because I have so many questions. I have too many questions.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Sticious Podcast. With just how full on this episode was, we decided to cut it into 2 parts, with the second part airing on the 19th of September.
Be sure to check out part 2, where we dive into the conspiracy of it all. Could your favorite celebrities be clones? Or are you a clone? Find out on the 19th of September.